Hi there, today we're going to review the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War started from 1954 and lasted until 1975. The parties involved in the war were the Communist government of North Vietnam, the Viet Cong, and its main ally, the USSR, the non-communist government of South Vietnam and its main ally, the USA, which was involved at a higher extent from 1963 to 1975. The origins of this conflict can be traced back to the aftermath of the Second World War, in which several wars sparked in the former French Indochina region. Those national liberation wars last around 30 years, and they can be classified in two main phases. The first phase was the war against the French colonizer from 1946 to 1954. The second phase was during the Cold War from 1955 to 1975. And involved the USA and the USSR. The Indochina region was conquered by the French in the mid-19th century. As a result from colonial oppression, in 1930, Ho Chi Minh founded the Indochinese Communist Party, ICP, which sought to free Indochina from the French colonial rule and to establish a communist regime. During the Second World War, the Indochinese Communist Party became a guerrilla force, in response to the Japanese invasion of Vietnamese territories during the Second World War. In 1945, Ho Chi Minh, the leader of the Viet Minh, declares Vietnam independence, and in 1954, the Dien Bien Phu battles gives Ho Chi Minh a victory over the French. Cambodia and Laos were already independent by that time. Nonetheless, the South Vietnamese government, led by Nguyen Dinh Diem, refused to unify Vietnam under communism and becomes a closer ally to the USA. The Geneva Accords of 1954 officially divide Vietnam in two at the 17th parallel, similar to what happened to Korea. The United States were not really happy about the idea of a unified communist Vietnam. Thus, during the 50th decade, the USA started to send small combat units and to encourage paramilitary activities in South Vietnam as a result of the containment policy. In June of 1954, the Vietnam War officially initiated. This war was a proxy war or containment war, in which the USA was trying to prevent the Red Malaise to be spread all over the world. It is also one of the biggest failures of the USA in terms of intervention, since the final outcome was a win for Vietnam. Some of the events that marked the conflict were the assassination of the South Vietnamese president with an US-backed military coup in 1963, the Gulf of Tonkin incident in 1964, in which allegedly 2 US Navy boats were attacked by North Vietnamese troops, giving the US authorities the perfect excuse to officially declare war on Vietnam, the Tet Offensive in 1968, in which both the Viet Cong and the Viet Minh attacked at the same time the USA and South Vietnamese troops. It's known as the Tet Offensive because it was done during the Vietnamese New Year or Tet. In 1968, one of the most shameful successes in US history occurred, the My Lai massacre, in which 500 civilians were horribly slaughtered by US troops in My Lai. Only one perpetrator was convicted and only served 3 years under house arrest. From 1969 to 1972, after the My Lai massacre and several American casualties in Vietnam, millions of people protested in the USA against the Vietnam War, becoming one of the largest public demonstrations in US history. The Vietnam War was particularly harsh towards the Vietnamese population. The USA used bombs heavily, as well as herbicides, such as the Agent Orange, which caused serious injuries in the civilian population and a lasting environmental damage for the Vietnamese jungle. Mines and grenades were also used, as well as flamethrowers. As no solution for the conflict or any determinate outcome was seen for the parts of it, the Paris peace talks to end the War of Vietnam initiated in 1968 and the accord was signed in 1973. Also, in 1973, the USA withdrew his troops from South Vietnam as part of the Paris Peace Accords. The aftermath was a defeat for the USA after North Vietnamese troops took control of South Vietnam in 1975, reunifying this country under a communist regime.